Roger Moore disliked him more than anyone else. Roger Moore was born Roger Moore on October 14, 1927 in Stockwell, South London. Moore's early life was pretty humble and simple. He was the son of a policeman and a housewife, and he grew up during the tough years of the Great Depression and World War I. These early experiences helped shape values of discipline, service, and staying humble that he kept with him throughout his life. Roger Moore's first path didn't lead straight to acting. During World War II, he served as a second lieutenant in the British Army, specifically in the Royal Army Service Corps stationed in West Germany. This military experience gave him with a sense of duty and responsibility that never left him. After the war, Moore studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, where he improved his skills alongside other future stars. His early acting career started small with jobs as Amidel and in British television, but it was his natural good looks, calm behavior, and smooth acting style that soon led him to international attention. Moore became famous in the 1950s and 60 seconds with television roles, most notably as Simon Templar in the Saint 1962 to 1969. His performance of the smooth, charming, and morally unclear hero was a perfect choice for his signature mix of wit and class. The Saint became a huge across the globe, lifting Moore into the ranks of international stardom and paving the way for the most famous role of his career. In 1973, Moore stepped into the legendary shoes of James Bond, becoming the third official actor to play 007 after Sean Connery and George Lazenby. He debuted in Live and Let Die, a film that marked a big shift in tone for the franchise over the course of 12 years. Moore would go on to play James Bond in a total of 7 films, more than any other actor in the series at the time. These included The Man with the Golden Gun, 1974, The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977, Moonraker, 1979, For Your Eyes Only, 1981, Octopussy, 1983, and A View to a Kill, 1985. What set Moore apart as Bond was his unique way of playing the character, rather than copying Connery's tug-hand gritty spy. Moore filled the role with class, humor, and irresistible charm. He delivered dry jokes with ease and approached danger with calm confidence, making his Bond a figure of cool calmness and sophisticated. For a generation of moviegoers, Moore was James Bond, the perfect example of the stylish, resourceful, and unshakable secret agent. Outside of Bond, Moore continued to work in film and television, often taking on roles that allowed him to play with or change his established image. He appeared in movies such as The Wild Geese 1978, The Cannonball Run 1981, and The Seawolves 1980, often alongside other legendary actors like Richard Burton and Gregory Peck. Even in later years, he took on comedic and self-making fun roles, always willing to poke fun at his image. Yet perhaps Moore's greatest disguisements came not in film but in his humanitarian work. In 1991, he became Honest of Goodwill Ambassador, a role he took with huge seriousness and dedication. Traveling the globe, he tirelessly spoke up for children's rights, clean water, vaccination programs, and education. His work with UNICEF earned him a number of honors, including the title of Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CB, in 1999, followed by a knighthood in 2003 for services to charity. Despite his fame, Moore remained known for his humility, kindness, and self-making fun humor. He frequently said that he was not the greatest actor in the world. Once joking, "I only have 3 expressions as Bond: right eyebrow raised, left eyebrow raised, and eyebrows crossed when holding a gun," but his lasting popularity suggested otherwise. Fans loved him not only for his work, but for the warmth and friendliness he showed both on and off screen. Roger Moore's personal life was marked by a series of deeply emotional relationships, high-profile marriages, and big life changes that often mirrored the drama and glamour of the roles he played on screen. His first marriage was to the ice skater and aspiring actress Doran Van Steen, a relationship that began when Moore was still young and on the edge of his acting career. Although they shared dreams and goals during the early years of their union, the marriage gradually became strained as Moore's rising fame and changing social circle created a growing distance between the couple. Eventually, Moore left Doran Van Steen for another woman who would become a central figure in his life for many years: Welsh-born singer Dorothy Squires. Dorothy Squires was not only 12 years older than Moore, but also far more established in the entertainment industry at the time they met. The relationship was stormy and controversial, often attracting a lot of public and tabloid attention. Despite the age difference and her strong personality, Moore was attracted by Squire's charisma, ambition, and influence. She was really helpful in helping him gain a foothold in the entertainment world, even using her connections to advance his career in those early uncertain years. The couple lived together for several years, but their relationship was frequently troubled by intense arguments and emotional ups and downs. Eventually, Moore's affections shifted again, this time toward the beautiful and elegant Italian actress Lisa Mattioli, whom he met while filming a movie in Italy. The connection between Moore and Mattioli grew quickly, and though it caused further strain and legal battles with Squires, Moore followed his heart. He and Lisa Mattioli entered into a long-term relationship, and after a period of living together, they officially married in 1969. Their marriage was for a time one of stability and joy. Together they raised 3 children, a daughter Deborah and 2 sons Jeffrey and Christian. As a family man, Moore appeared to settle into a more grounded lifestyle, balancing his acting jobs with fatherhood and family life, even as his fame as James Bond reached international reach. However, beneath the polished exterior, Moore and Mattioli's marriage eventually began to fall apart. Their relationship grew increasingly strained over time due to Moore's frequent travel, long film shoots, and reported personal differences. By 1993, after nearly 25 years of marriage, the couple chose to live separately. That same year, Moore faced one of the most serious health challenges of his life when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. The diagnosis came as a shock, prompting him to rethink many aspects of his life. Although he underwent treatment and ultimately beat the illness, the emotional impact of the diagnosis and the breakdown of his marriage left a lasting mark on him. The final legal end to his marriage with Lisa Mattioli came in 2000 when the two were formally divorced. By then, Moore had already formed a deep bond with Christina Tholstrup, a Danish-Swedish socialite and former neighbor. Tholstrup, a sophisticated and independently wealthy woman, offered Moore companionship, understanding, and support during a difficult period of transition in his life. The relationship grew gradually into something more lasting, and in 2002 the couple were married. The union brought Moore a sense of peace and happiness in his later years. Christina proved to be a steady and loving partner, standing by his side through public appearances, charity work, and health scares. Their marriage lasted until Roger Moore's death in 2017, marking the final and perhaps most peaceful chapter of his romantic life. Roger Moore, the smooth British actor known worldwide for his playing of James Bond, was widely seen as a gentleman both on and off the screen. Polished, charming, and always diplomatic, Moore rarely spoke badly of anyone. But there was one man for whom his distaste appeared to know no bounds: Frank Sinatra. To those close to Moore, it was no secret that he had a deep, boiling dislike for the American crooner and screen icon, a rare and unusual hatred that puzzled and intrigued his colleagues in equal measure. The root of Moore's hate toward Sinatra wasn't born from a singly explosive incident, but rather from a buildup of insults, differences, and personal offense. Their personalities could not have been more completely opposed. Moore, ever the calm, courteous Englishman followed by manners, being on time, and professional courtesy. Sinatra, on the other hand, was a wild mix of ego, temper, and late-night unpredictability. He was known for his drinking, his mob connections, and a tendency to treat others with a dismissive superiority that Moore found totally disgusting. One of the most well-known reasons for Moore's dislike occurred during a social event in Hollywood in the late 1960s. Moore, then gaining fame through his aunt, was introduced to Sinatra at a party filled with high-profile guests. According to Moore's later stories, Sinatra dismissed him immediately with an air of mockery, reportedly calling him the soap commercial guy, a reference to Moore's early work in British television. It was a humiliating insult made worse by the laughter of Sinatra's group of friends. Moore, ever dignified, swallowed his pride, but never forgot the insult professionally. Their worlds also clashed during the peak of Moore's Bond films. Sinatra, whose connections in Hollywood ran deep, reportedly blocked Moore's attempts to break into more serious dramatic roles, believing Moore lacked the toughness and seriousness of a true leading man. When producers suggested Moore's name for a potential co-starring role in a war film that Sinatra was considering, Sinatra allegedly shut down the idea immediately, dismissing Moore as too soft for the part. Word of that decision reached Moore, further cementing his impression of Sinatra as mean and self-centered. There was also the matter of how Sinatra treated others, particularly women and service staff, which Moore found deeply offensive. Moore, raised in a household where respect and courtesy were basic, could not tolerate Sinatra's often harsh treatment of waiters, assistants, and even romantic partners. He believed in earning respect through kindness and grace, while Sinatra seemed to use power through intimidation and showing off. Their moral codes were simply not compatible, and Moore reportedly once said in private, if charm were a currency, he'd be bankrupt. As time passed, the hostility never quite went away. Even in interviews later in life, when asked about Sinatra, Moore would offer a short response or an arched eyebrow, letting the silence speak volumes. He avoided explaining publicly, but in private circles, he was known to refer to Sinatra with terms like the most overrated man in Hollywood or the loudest bore at every table. Friends noted that Moore's distaste for Sinatra bordered on obsession. The mere mention of the singer's name was enough to darken his usually cheerful mood. In a career spanning decades, Roger Moore met royalty, presidents, legends of the stage and screen, and the most notorious characters in showbiz. But of all the people he encountered, none left a worse impression on him than Frank Sinatra. It was not just a matter of personal offense. It was a clash of values, personalities, and professional ethics that created a rare and lasting split. For a man who got along with nearly everyone, Roger Moore's deep and lasting hatred for Sinatra stood out as one grudge he never buried. Roger Moore's early life was marked by a series of ongoing and troubling health issues that followed him well into adulthood, setting the stage for a lifetime of physical challenges. As a child, he battled multiple serious childhood illnesses, including kickins, measles, and mumps, common yet potentially dangerous diseases at time, especially in the pre-vaccine era. These illnesses often left children stuck in bed for weeks and could result in lasting complications. In Moore's case, they were made worse by even more life-threatening conditions such as double pneumonia, a serious infection in both lungs that can be fatal if not treated quickly. He also suffered from jaundice, a condition typically linked to liver problems and marked by yellowing of the skin and eyes, which hinted at early weaknesses in his overall health. Due to these numerous sickness, Moore underwent several surgical procedures at a young age, including the removal of his appendix, tonsils, and adenoids. These operations, while routine today, carried greater risks in the 1930s and 1942, and were a sign of a childhood frequently surrounded by medical problems and recovery. Moore's health struggles did not end with childhood. As he entered adulthood and began his long and demanding career in film and television, he developed a chronic condition that bothered him for decades. Kidney stones. This extremely painful problem would repeatedly interrupt his work and personal life. He experienced severotics while filming some of his most famous roles as James Bond. In 1973, during the production of Live and Let Die, his debut outing as the smooth British secret agent, Moore had to be briefly hospitalized due to a particularly painful episode of kidney stones. Highlighting the physical strain he endured even while performing high-action scenes. The problem came back in 1979 during the filming of Moonraker, again requiring medical attention and emphasizing the returning nature of his condition. On top of these chronices, Moore was frequently injured during his stunt-heavy performances in Bond franchise. While filming the adrenaline-fueled speedboat chase scene in Live and Let Die, Moore lost control of the vessel and crashed, resulting in a broken tooth and a concussion, injuries that were initially downplayed in the press, but were quite serious. He insisted on continuing the shoot despite his injuries, a testament to his professionalism and dedication. Similarly, during the filming of The Spy Who Loved Me, he suffered painful burns to his buttocks due to a malfunctioning rigged explosion stunt. These incidents underscored not only the physical risks Moore faced while playing 007, but also the toll they took on his body, especially given his pre-existing health weaknesses. In the 1990s, Moore's health concerns became even more serious. In 1993, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, a life-threatening illness that requires treatment. Fortunately, the cancer was caught early enough, and Moore underwent successful therapy that allowed him to recover and continue his work, particularly his increasing involvement in humanitarian causes through UNICEF. However, his break was not permanent. As he aged, more health complications appeared, In 2003, while performing on stage during a live theater production on Broadway, Moore collapsed in front of a shocked audience. The incident was later blamed on a dangerously slow heart rate, which led doctors to implant a pacemaker to regulate his heartbeat and prevent potentially fatal episodes, though he recovered. It marked a turning point in his health. A decade later, in 2013, Moore was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, a chronic condition that further complicated his ability to maintain the lifestyle he had once enjoyed. Managing the disease required strict dietary controls, medication, and frequent monitoring, all of which added to the growing list of medical challenges he faced. In the years leading up to his death, his health began to get worse more rapidly. A tumor was discovered on his liver, a scary sign that foreshadowed the aggressive cancers that would eventually claim his life. Though it was initially watched and not believed to be immediately life-threatening, Thespit hinted at underlying cancerous development that would later spread. Then in 2017, during the period when he was undergoing treatment for cancer, Moore suffered a serious fall resulting in a badly injured collarbone. The injury was both painful and weakening, making movement difficult and severely limiting his independence. It was a distressing time for him and his family as his body grew increasingly weak. Roger Moore passed away on May 23, 2017, in the quiet, picturesque resort town of Crans, Montana, Switzerland. Headed peacefully at the age of 89, surrounded by his loved ones after a brave battle with lung and liver cancers. His death marked the end of a long journey that had been filled with movie triumphs and personal battles, not least among them his numerous health problems. Despite the many physical challenges he faced throughout his life, Moore remained remarkably gracious, witty, and dignified, never allowing his illnesses to define him. He was laid to rest in Monaco Cemetery, a fitting location for a man who had come to represent elegance, charm, and strength in equal measure. His legacy lives on not only through his filmography but also through his public and personal courage in the face of constant physical hardship.